Hello, hello, everybody. What's going on? Hopefully, you guys are having a wonderful holiday. But I, decided it'd be probably good to sneak a show in this week. So, welcome to episode 37 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and joining me as always is Pimp Daddy John Clark over there. Two turntables and a microphone. And we want to welcome special guest, Mr. Adebisi, or Michael Van Driel? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Michael Van Driel, if you want to use the real name.
Is the real name. Okay, awesome. Well, Mike, pleasure having you on, man. Pleasure sneaking in this little time where, you're not being put to work by Mr. James Too Good Harding over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's cool. That's cool. So how's y'all's holiday been?
Mine's been good. Pretty simple. Nothing too crazy happening.
Getting good toys?
Good toys.
The main toy I want is actually a Nexus 4, which Google doesn't know how to launch a product. So
what?
It's I managed to order 3 weeks ago, and it's got 7-week shipping. So
Gee
yeah.
whiz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
That's the tablet, right?
I want the tablet. There's the Nexus 4, Nexus 7, and 10, and the Nexus 4 is the phone.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they're all out of stock. I don't know what the hell Google did, but yeah.
Yeah, it's selling like hotcakes. I mean, I don't have one personally, but I know a few people that were showing it to me over the weekend, and I don't know how you fit that thing in your pocket, dude. Why even bother getting that? The Nexus 4?
The Nexus 4 is like a normal size phone. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I think the Nexus
7?
7 doesn't make sense. I don't.
Dude, I thought the Nexus 4 is like freaking huge, isn't it?
I don't think so. I hope not.
It's
I think the
pretty
Nexus
big,
7
dude.
is big, but
No, sorry, I'm not thinking the Nexus. Sorry, I'm thinking the Note 2. Jeez, yeah, it's the Nexus 4. It is a regular size phone. That's true. That's true. What about you, John? Getting any toys?
I got my
What the? Nice.
my Yoda bobblehead,
All right.
and then I found these. I bought these for myself. They're actually Space Invaders.
Oh, God.
You put them on bottles to mark your bottle.
I
like a
saw
bottle of
those at
beer.
HMV, I think, when I was in the line.
To mark
Yeah,
your
they're little
bottle?
clear stickers, so I figure I could put them on my laptop or something. But it's Space Invaders. Come on, you can't go wrong there.
Nice.
And then ASIO, I won a contest. ASIO sent me a Levitron. Is it Levitron or Leviton? I better look. Levitron clicker keyboard, mechanical keyboard. So
All right.
that's
goodies.
pretty cool too.
Definitely some goodies.
Let's see. Oh, and I got this.
Far Cry.
Oh man, dude, I'm telling you, it's probably the best single player shooter game there is. I think it's
I've
awesome.
heard great things about Far Cry.
It's really good.
I've been meaning to get it. I just don't have any time to play it though. Mike, you play any Far Cry?
No. I heard it's really good though. Although I heard the DLC on it is a real pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, I heard that too, actually. But yeah, all the Far Cry's have been great, so I wouldn't assume any less from that one. But here's my big prize for my kids right here. The back
Oh,
scratcher.
let me see. I gotta see this
The
thing.
back
Yeah,
scratcher.
waiting on the stream delay. Oh, nice.
Oh man, my kids spend
What is it? I missed
It's a
it.
back scratcher.
Oh, nice.
No, but other than that, it's pretty much been a bunch of different mics. Just been experimenting with a bunch of mics, so I could free myself up from this stand here. But that's a work in progress. So maybe in the coming future you'll see that. But anyways, let's get to some of these show topics. Well, there's not much in the news, thankfully, given that it's the holiday, and I think eSports, has that 2 weeks off, maybe 2 weeks off. I mean, Iron Squid, I guess, has been running. I guess that's about
And Home Story started.
Yeah, Home Story Cup
Yeah.
finished up.
Home Story Cup. Oh yeah, Home Story. Yeah. Home Story Cup finished off. What'd y'all think of that? I mean, we can briefly talk about it. How'd you think of the event? I mean, obviously there was a little bit of drama in there, which is actually a first for Home Story. I don't think we've ever had any kind of.
Again, I was not able to tune in. However, when I heard about the drama, I tuned in to the conversation just to kind of find out how it was handled. Because obviously my interest is always in the administration of things and kind of how all that works out. I thought it was an interesting situation. I actually didn't get a full feel of exactly what happened. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm guessing that it was probably blown up more than it needed to be as far as any drama.
I think it was kind of blown up. Essentially, what happened was, what was it? Stefano DC'd in a game where he was, I think, down about 20 supply and in a pretty rough spot when he was down 0-1 in the series. And the way Take set it up for disconnects to be decided is that you get 3 players of like similar races to the matchup, and then they decide.
It's like a tribunal.
If it's going to be a remake or if it's going to award someone the win or whatever.
Right.
And they did that on stream where they I think it was Damaga, TLO, and Snoo were talking about it. And they were all kind of like, well, we don't really want to decide this. I think Damaga and TLO especially, Damaga was like, please don't make me decide what happens. Because it's kind of like, well, you look at the game and as a pro gamer, you're like, well, I think that X-Lord is going to win this game. But it's not 100%, so you're kind of like, And then on the stream, X-Lord kind of came over and was like, explained what he was doing and why he thought it was like a guaranteed win, which is kind of like a pretty big no-no. Like, you shouldn't really be like, pleading your cause to the admins who aren't even the admins, who are actually players. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough spot. I think Take will probably change that policy.
I think it's a pretty bad policy to have players that played in the tournament be decide. I think it's good to have because a lot of administrators don't really know like when a game is over and when it's not over. So having players there to do it is good, but you need like unbiased players who weren't in the tournament, who are not on the same team, and so forth. So it's really, really complicated to really set that up well. And ultimately, it's better just have a good admin, really.
Yeah, an admin that actually understands the game, right, and can make that judgment there.
They're kind of in a unique situation because they don't think of themselves, I think, as like running this really big, like it's a main tournament. It's more of an event for them.
It's ultimately a more complicated system, though, that they use to decide than other tournaments. So it is, and I mean, you're right, because it is like a more casual tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But,
so they don't expect things like that, and they may not have been prepared for it.
Well, Stefano
I don't think you can anyway.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because it had a lot to do with, X-Lord, really, because Stefano was really cool with. He was
ultimately, I think, had to do with Stefano, because Stefano was just like, oh, just give him the win. I lost.
Exactly.
And then it went from there, which, I mean, to me, a player should have the player should just be sitting there in their chair waiting for, news to come as to what's happening. They shouldn't really be directly involved.
No, they shouldn't be involved with it all, unless they feel that there's some sort of dispute with the way that the rules were set or whatever. But if they sit down to play a match and they've already looked over the rules, then it ultimately is on the admins to make the right decision, or at least to make a decision and give it to them, and then off they go. I thought the final results were interesting, though, for the way it turned out.
Yeah.
I was actually quite surprised.
Yeah, definitely. So that brings up a good point, because I think in general, I think I agree with you guys when it comes to just, players should just sit there and just wait to see what happens. But, we've seen in the past where the players, they make a gesture, right? And the gesture is usually a giving gesture. It's not usually where you're, getting the better end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's just so problematic, right? Because then all of a sudden the community is like, oh, well, this guy gave White Raw another chance when he was late. So why aren't you giving my favorite player another chance?
You have to stick. You have to stick to the rules, regardless. Let's say, for instance, it was obvious that the opponent was going to beat Stefano. Period. No doubt about it. But the rules were a specific way in which there would be a regame, and Stefano says, "Well, just give him the win," which is kind of exactly what happened. It doesn't matter what Stefano says at that point. You have to go with what the rules were set in place. Otherwise, you run into other issues, like you said. I mean, then it can come down the road and someone else says something different. It just makes a mess.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. But outside of that, I felt like, I mean, Snoot winning, I was really, really happy to see Snoot win, just because he's been doing so well, and I feel like he's been a little underrated or under the radar for the last, for a while now, but particularly the last few months when he's had such great finishes in a few of the big tournaments. So I was really happy to see him win. Do you guys know Snoot pretty well, or?
Yeah, I know him moderately well. He before this he was at the Thor Open, which the Good Studio kind of produced, and he got second there. And I mean, he beat Life at IPL 5, and I think both of those are like big results, but it's not like the the big title result, like winning a home story cup. And so I think it's really good for Snoot. I think it's really good for the foreign scene. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting because he's already said that like he's his contract is ending, and so he's like looking for more offers and whatever else. And so to me, it's kind of like even a big indicator for like the health of the scene to see where Snoot goes and see how he's doing. Because I mean, like the guy deserves to get picked up by one of these more established teams and get a nicer salary now, I think. So hopefully that happens. And if it doesn't happen, I'm a little bit worried because I mean he's kind of done all of the things that it takes to get to where you should be as a pro gamer in terms of how successful he's been, how good in terms of like being on shows like Pro Corner and whatever else and doing interviews. So hopefully he lands somewhere good when his contract ends.
Yeah, and I remember the days watching him play him on his stream all the time too. That wasn't that long ago, and going from that to basically beating top Koreans now, that's it's really great to see. And
we need more of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
We do need more.
I mean, well, the truth it's not necessarily we need more of it because there is a lot of it going on. I wouldn't say a lot, but there's some of it going on that just doesn't get the attention that it's deserved. I'd say that we need a little bit more attention given to some of these players that are doing some of those things.
Well, they're starting to. Baby's getting some more attention now, and guys like Vortex and even sort of at NASL, and I mean they've had some attention during the summer too, but just kind of calling out the last few months.
It's just hard. Yeah, it's just really hard because there's so many players that will come in and in an online tournament beat a Korean here and there. I think Thorne did an interview with Zoc where Zoc was kind of like it's better to get 30th and first as opposed to just placing in the middle a bunch because unless you win, like players okay, oh yeah, you had a good run, but whatever, like I'm not gonna watch a stream for 5 hours because of that. Like, so you really gotta really win something, right? And Snoot did that. So
well, and with so many tournaments happening, it's really only the winners or maybe second place that get recognized because there was so much going on that by the end of it, the only thing you could remember was the winner of the event. Yeah. It didn't matter that some guy may have beaten 3 Koreans on his way to finishing 4th. At that point, he's the third loser. He didn't win anything.
Yeah, that Sock interview is really good. Y'all should check it out. It was on Reddit like the last day or so. So, oh gosh, I wish he'd start playing more. I want to see Sage kind of get back to that top level form that he was about a year ago. But let's enough of home story. Let's talk a little bit about Adebisi here. And one of the big reasons I wanted to have Mike on the show is we've been talking since about August about figuring out a time, and right around that time I think is when you started getting really busy, and then you got picked up by the Good Show or just the whole Good Show team, and so you haven't even been here in the NA to really figure out a good time. Not to mention the Good Show is like right before our show too, on Tuesdays. So it was really fortunate that you were, I mean, the timing of it, you coming home for vacation, and we us doing a show this week. So really happy to have you on, buddy. And one of the things I really wanted to have you kind of talk about is just your journey, in esports. Adebisi here, it wasn't that long ago. Adebisi was doing some casting, just community casting, and then kind of led to some MLG casting. I remember the beta stream that you were casting on that one time, and then kind of went from there all the way into just observing, right? And now you're obviously the go-to foreign observer and doing a lot of EU tournaments, NA tournaments, and now part of the Too Good Show too, or the Good Show also. So yeah, kind of talk to us a little bit about just maybe just tell us, just walk us through a little bit through just your history, and then talk about some of the challenges you faced, and just to maybe give some advice to some of the folks that are in that situation right now.
Okay, well, like in terms of starting with esports, I kind of just I was very casual about it. Like when the first thing I did in terms of commentary, I actually got into it because I was more interested in learning how to use video editing software, right? So I went and made sure to legally acquire some good. Premiere. Premiere is what I was using. So I was just like, well, what should I make videos of? So at the time, Starcraft beta was out, so I was like, well, I'll just make some commentary videos or tutorial videos and just learn how to use the software with that, because it's very hard, I find, to learn how to use something like Photoshop or whatever else without having kind of a project in mind. So I started with that just very casually and uploading videos, and then you kind of just kind of like, well, let's see what I can do with this. So I kind of kept building up a YouTube channel that now I kind of look at it more like a portfolio. So I think it's still kind of useful to have.
Yeah.
But I just kind of kept uploading videos. I never got it very big. I did end up getting a partnership or whatever with Machinima. I got up to like 4,000 or so subscribers, and I was like, okay, well, this is cool, but it gets kind of boring, just like commentating replays, which is what I ended up doing. So at the same time, you know, I was still playing a lot, traveling. So I just started. I went to one MLG, just, you know, to meet some friends and, you know, network a little bit. And networking is really how you kind of have to get started. You know, without meeting people in real life and talking to them and getting to know them, like, no one really wants you to do anything. And the fact is, like, you know, like when I started off casting on the MLG secondary streams, like, you know, you're not getting paid or anything. So it's like, you got to, like, have the ability to kind of, like, you know, have that opportunity cost of, you know, not staying home and working, whatever else. So, like, you kind of need to prove that you're willing to put a lot of your own time into this and whatnot. So I traveled one MLG and then kind of got started casting on their side streams, then kept that up for quite a while. I think I did like 4 MLGs or something like that. But even then, I was kind of like, with the whole commentary thing, I was never really sure if it's really what I wanted to do. I mean, to be honest, I still don't. I was actually, like, what did I do? I cast 2 days of Pro League with TLO last week just because they asked me, and it was like, well, they kind of needed someone. I was like, well, I love TLO. TLO is one of my good friends, so, like, why not? And I also cast a day at DreamHack Winter when Apollo lost his voice. I did that with In Control, so that was fun. So it's like, I still like casting, but for me, it's like, if you want to cast, like, you really need to, like, put all your time into it. Like, you need to be watching pretty much every single GSL game. You need to be playing a lot yourself. You need to be doing all these things, or at least I feel if I'm going to be a commentator, I need to be doing all those things, because I really have just a very high standard, in my opinion, at least. Like, I like to think I do, and so, like, even when I look back on in the past few weeks, the casting I've done is just not up to the standard I like, because it's hard to have enough time to do all that. And so that's kind of when I realized, hey, well, the observing stuff, I can actually do that a lot more without putting as much time into it. So at one of the arenas, when I was helping commentate, on the 3rd day, there was, like, only one stream. So I was like, I can do the observing for Tastosis. And they had been whining for an observer for ages, because that's kind of the standard in Korea. Everyone knows that. And MLG had been talking before about getting an observer. So I said I would be happy to do it. And then I kind of started there. And
Wow.
since that event, I've done every event for MLG since all of them.
Mike, let me stop you for a second. One thing that you just said is very profound, and we've said this before on the show, and it's something that people need to be listening to for those that want to get interested, is that you made an offer. That you just basically stepped up and said,
yeah,
you know, I can do this. And that's what a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people out there in esports that have, and I've said this before as well, that there's people out there that are excellent at a lot of different things. And, you know, they'll say, you know, how do I get more involved in esports, and how do I get to where you're at? And I know Day 9 said this too. Sometimes you just have to ask. You just have to be willing to ask, and be willing to kind of sacrifice time, sometimes money, and just do things and get known. It's not like, I mean, it's getting better in the sense that we can send resumes now to different companies that are looking. But even in that case, because I've sent a few resumes out and never even gotten a call back, it really is just about getting involved. And sometimes it's just getting your foot in the door and then doing everything that you can, putting a lot of work into it, and then, you know, hoping that it's seen, and then you can move on to doing something where you're getting paid for it, which is kind of exactly what's happened with you.
So Mike, you mentioned that you know, that right before that you actually asked to observe for Tastosis, that you had already been thinking and observing. So did you feel like, I mean, was it premeditated at all that you asked, or was it literally spur of the moment?
That it wasn't really spur of the moment, because at previous MLGs, like, some of the staff, Lee and some others, are kind of like, basically Tastosis had been bitching and bitching for an observer for you know, quite some time, because, like, they know that's the proper way to commentate a game, to present a game, you know, to have a professional broadcast. That's how Korea's done, you know, Brood War for over 10 years and so forth, blah, blah, blah. So I just never had the opportunity at one of the major events because all the streams are constantly going basically. But so it was kind of like I said like, oh, I'd be interested in doing that at the one of the last ones, and they're like, okay, well maybe we can get you in there, blah blah blah, and so it just kind of took some time, and it took the right. It just took the right timing in a lot of ways because it's very hard. You look at a tournament like MLG. They've got a massive budget, but are they making money? I mean, I don't know. I don't really think they're making that much money. So it's like for them to go and add in another person who, even if you're not paying them, you have to fly them there. You have to get pay for catering for their food, get them a hotel room, and then they're going to do a job that basically didn't exist before. So it's just like a fresh body, someone who. Yep. It's doing something that didn't exist before, that you didn't need before, that no one really complained that much about. So it's really a hard sell in a lot of ways to get these tournaments to start actually using a dedicated observer. So, and that's why it was kind of so important to do it right with MLG off the bat, because if I had done a bad job, then it's kind of like, well, forget that. We tried it, didn't work. Might work in Korea, it doesn't work here, blah, blah, blah.
Or they just didn't see it. At first, people probably didn't see the value in it, and now they're seeing the value in it.
Yeah, very much.
Very similar to a lot of different things. People may not see the value in having a good admin in a tournament.
Yep.
But just like at Home Story, sometimes having someone there that can take charge makes a huge difference. And then people and organizations start to see that this is definitely something that will add value to our event. And so people like you will then have an opportunity to do a lot of good things.
So,
yeah, I agree. It's kind of like tournaments now have to differentiate themselves in different ways, and I think we're seeing that a lot more with different events kind of taking different routes and focusing on different things. And the observing is kind of all around becoming one of the cornerstones. And it's interesting for me too, because for commentators, it's like totally different to use an observer. Even if you're still in the game, you still have to be aware that what's going out onto the stream is not what you're showing. So there's some casters, like I talked about Tastosis, they pretty much demanded it. Apollo is a very big advocate as well. But some of the other commentators, it's like there's a learning curve to it, and so they struggle with it, maybe even push back a little bit. They'd rather do it themselves and so forth. So it's an interesting dynamic, but it's a big step in the right direction, I think. And I mean, when you look at other esport titles too, it's I know Riot is using. They've been using some guy I don't know, but they use a dedicated observer, and I think games like Counter-Strike needed even more so than games like Starcraft and MOBAs and whatnot.
Yeah, so just to be clear, like whenever they're using an observer, like having you observe, they're just watching your viewpoint when they're casting, or
it varies. Generally, what the setup is, or what I consider the ideal setup, is that they both have their computers, right? And one of the computers is just the feed of the program out, which is what the program going out onto the stream is. And then the other screen is their computer, and they're in the game. So Artosis can go and check upgrades, or can check, the worker count or whatever else. But sometimes the setup isn't like that. Sometimes, like for example, with the Pro League right now, they have a Korean observer, and they get the program out feed, and that's it. So like, if they want to see the production tab, if they want to see if an upgrade started, they can't. They gotta wait, and they gotta hope that it gets shown. And obviously, their observer doesn't speak English, so they can't, listen to the audio and show it and whatnot. So it varies. And then sometimes I've had setups where the commentators can't see what I'm doing at all, so they have to lock on in-game, which is less than ideal for various reasons, but it always just depends on the setup. And that's actually one of the challenges, because when you work with so many different organizations, and they all have their own staff, their own setups, their own equipment, it can be pretty complicated and stuff.
Yeah, we're talking like observing right now as if it's it's no big deal. It's been around, but I just want to make it clear to everybody that Adebisi here is really paved the way for all the foreigners, like observing from a foreigner standpoint. Korea has obviously had their observers for a long time with GSL and all those guys, but like Adebisi getting that MLG gig, I mean, that's really the first moment for observer. I mean, that's right? That's really the first foreign tournament to really pick up an observer. So, I mean, to start using observers. And I kind of wanted to have you talk a little bit about, you condensing these tournaments, and maybe how you worked with casters, maybe to help with trying to
Yeah.
land these gigs.
I mean, with MLG, it kind of goes right back to Tasteless and Artosis, who were big advocates for it. And then I like to think that, I was there at I made sure I was there at the right time, and I, worked well with them, and MLG saw that, and so kept it going. And then likewise, in terms of doing European events and DreamHack and so forth, Apollo is really the guy who gets credit there because, he was like, all right, look at what MLG has done with Adebisi. Look how this changes the production, and there's always people who are like, well, this is useless. We already have so much volunteer staff. Why should we, add another person doing something that we've never had before and pay them for it, right? So it's challenging. What was the original question?
I mean, the original question was just, really just talk about just how difficult it was to really convince them, because we had our conversation. Remember our conversation we had like months ago when you
I mean, the thing is, you just kind of can't force these things. I feel like, because I mean, the second MLG I did, when I first heard you talk to Tasos complaining about having an observer, like, I could have gone and gone to one of the MLG higher up guys and been like, look, you got to let me do this, trust me, they want it bad and I can do it. But they just weren't ready for it, They were like, no, and it's like you just kind of got to let things happen. You gotta, you gotta let things happen basically, and you just gotta, make sure you show that you're not a prick and you're good to work with. And then why would they go to someone else when they are finally ready for it, when they could go to you? So that would really be my advice. You might see something that would make an event better, but you can't kind of shove it down their throat. A lot of times, I think these event organizers have to kind of learn things on their own. It's like certain event formats. Like I remember the DreamHack Stockholm Open, where they had there was like 3 group stages instead of 2, and so the first group stage, like some of these groups had 3 people in them, 2 people in them, and like. It's like, well, that obviously doesn't work, but you need an event to realize that, right? So these things, they take time. So
I could have told them that wouldn't work in the beginning.
Yeah, but they needed to learn, so they learned, and they fixed it, thankfully. And so I think a lot of events are getting better at fixing it. And right now, with the way the industry is, there's kind of, I feel it's a bit crowded, and so these events, they have to learn, otherwise, you just lose, you lose your market share, right? So. With the way things are as competitive as they are now, I think just make yourself available and let people know. Because I mean, you can only do so much, and it's very difficult because even if you see something where it's like, oh, let me do this for you, like, and then like, oh, well, we don't really have budget for that, and it's like, well, do you say like, oh, I'll fly myself out and put myself up and do it for you? Yeah. Then it's like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, right? Because then you're wasting all your money to help another private company make money, right? So you just kind of got to let things grow naturally and be patient. And if things don't always go your way, that's kind of how things work in esports. I mean, I've talked to a lot of different leagues about different opportunities, and it's just like, what, the right one doesn't come along, I don't want to take it, because in terms of working in esports, you kind of got to have certain goals and know what you're looking to do with it, because there's always more money to be made elsewhere. Like that's just how esports is. So
yeah, we kind of talked about this a little bit last show about at what point do you just stop doing stuff for free, and then demanding to be paid for what the value that you're bringing.
Yeah, so. I mean it's a hard line to cross, and it's just very
well. And the problem in esports is if you walked away tomorrow, somebody else would offer to do it for free.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't do it as well.
Then they may not. But again, that's what we've been. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because we've been telling people sometimes you just have to get involved and you have to offer your time for free. And what that's done for the 12 years that I've been in esports is it's just continued to be a revolving door of people willing to help and willing to do things, and it's all for passion and everyone's involved. And now that money has gotten involved and people are actually paid for things, then like Mike says, you have to, what's that fine line? Like, how long am I going to do this and not get paid for it? Because other people are getting paid for it. But then again, if you step away from it because you're not getting paid, a lot of the organizations just look at it and go, oh, that's fine, we'll just get someone else that can do it for free, because we have plenty of contacts. We know plenty of people in esports that would love to just jump at this opportunity. So it's just unfortunate that it's that way. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's the constant challenge. I think one of the guys in chat, Boris, kind of brings up an interesting point, which is this similar debate is kind of happening on Team Liquid and Reddit right now with the Pro League cast, because it's like, you know, Pro League, the most prestigious, so forth league, you know, they didn't go out and try and buy out, you know, Tastedosis from GSL. They didn't go and try and, you know, get Apollo and Total Biscuit to move to Korea or something insane like that. They just went out and got two guys who are, you know, this is their first big commentary gig, and it's like, well, they're saving a ton of money, I'm sure, by not, you know, paying some of these premier guys, but is their product suffering? Is their viewership going down? And you know, what are the impacts of that? It's kind of similar to on the last State of the Game, In Control asked Sunday, and it's like, why don't you guys get Tastedosis anymore? He's like, well, it's too expensive. It doesn't, the return isn't there. You know, the truth.
And the thing is we talked about this when we first started this show. I may have brought it up. It's just, and we've talked about it before. You know, we're casters at a point where it was more important for each event to have the best casters. It wasn't so much about the players. And now that it's become about the players, you know, the organizations can look at it and say, there's no reason for me to pay so and so to be here. The value is not worth it. I mean, I'm going to get 50,000 people to watch the tournament because of the players. The caster is not going to make a huge difference. I still think there are some casters that still do make a difference, but overall, there's good about this, though, because it's becoming about the event. It's becoming about the game and the players more so than the casters, and nothing against the casters, but they just need to be a part of it. And it was weighted so heavily on them for so long, and I think now we're starting to even some of those things out, and those things are going to happen. Casters are not going to get asked to do jobs at an event, maybe because they cost too much. And these two guys that get hooked up with the Pro League, I mean, are they complaining? There's no way. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for them. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pro League, Doa's team was set up for that, or it seemed to be it seemed that Doa's team was set up for it, right? And they kind of just fell through last minute too. So, yeah, I think Pro League did ask a few people.
Yeah, no, Pro League,
Colaris, right?
They reached out to Colaris. I can say they reached out to Apollo too. They reached out to a bunch of people, but I mean, Colaris is, you know, he doesn't want to abandon ESL. ESL is kind of the company that gave him, you know, they got him established. Without ESL, I don't think anyone knows where he would be right now, right? You know, Apollo is very established in Europe. He does a lot of traveling anyway. He doesn't. I mean, Pro League is a big commitment. That's the thing. It's like every weekend, 4 days a week as well. Like 4 days a week, including weekends. So, like, you basically can't travel to foreign events and so forth. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, they couldn't. They just, I don't really know how far it got in terms of negotiations with those guys. If it came down to price, or if it was just that, you know, we don't want to do it. But I mean, it's also an interesting, you know, kind of discussion or like dynamic in terms of how this is all played out. Just because the EGTL was producing the broadcasts, and then OGM brings in their own people, and so, or not OGM, but Kespa brings in their own people, and there was already just a lot of initial backlash because of the DOA situation. So I think, you know, are these casters getting a harder run of things? Because personally, like when I've listened to the commentary, and I think Whiplash is actually pretty good. I think he knows the game better than a lot of the big name commentators out there, like much better. So it's just kind of interesting. Like I personally think he's a better commentator than Doa. So you know, I don't know. That's just me. So it'll be interesting. But
he is quite good. But it's another interesting thing too. Like I remember when we had Moltrap on here, and we were talking about really just what the dream job is for casters now. And you know, before I think a lot of people would have said moving to Korea, you know, living the life of Tastedosis was really the pinnacle of casting. But today, I don't think that's the case. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, if you go to Korea and you get paid what Tasteless and Artosis get paid, that might be the dream job. because I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was actually very close to going to Korea to help commentate the GSL for Code A and probably Team League and whatever else. But it was like I'm not spending my own money to fly to Korea so that maybe you can contract me and then maybe you can pay me back for that plane ticket. Like I'm fine making not much money, but like if you basically what they said was that they originally actually said that they'd fly me out there to a trial period, and then if it didn't work out, it was whatever.
The
But
good
then
old,
they
the good
said,
old trial period. That's
then they said the trial period after that they'd negotiate a contract, and then if they contracted me, then they'd reimburse me for my plane ticket. So
Oh God.
it's like, no, thank you, right? So I mean, it is a dream job. So for a lot of people, well, if I lose the money on the plane ticket, at least I tried, right? But for me, it's like you got to draw a line somewhere between this being,
sounds like you tuned into our show last week.
Yeah, no, I did actually. So it's
really
I mean, it's like that everywhere. So
that fine
I mean, to
line.
go back to the original question, it's like, it's huge to go to Korean commentate, but it's also I mean, Caldor lived in the Gome house for a year. I don't know. For me, I don't really want to live there for a year. Like, so.
Right. You mean in Korea or in the Gom house?
Yeah, in the I mean, I don't know, in the Gome house, there's like, it all depends, right? Like, it's just such a complicated situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely the casuals over there are doing. Yeah, I mean, I like what the pro league guys are doing right now too. I like it better having them there too versus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good because I mean, there's like In Control talked about on State of the Game having it done off site, and just if you get a really good feed and if you have the stream, because basically you can set up the stream so that it's not restreaming a stream, so it's not like you watching a stream and then you have XSplit open and you're restreaming that. You can basically get it so that you're just kind of like forwarding the stream, and then you put your one extra level of audio on top of that and send it out so there isn't the same quality degradation. And like I think it's possible, but then you look at it and say, okay, this is 4 times a week. It's for North American times, I think it starts at like 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. So you basically need someone to completely fuck their sleep schedule forever.
Yeah.
And likewise in Europe, it's kind of reverse. It's like there's one early morning one, and then there's one at a crazy time. So it's like you need people in Korea in the long run, unless you want to kind of cut it in half and have like a European partner and a North American partner. And I mean, I kind of thought about a lot of that, and I think it could have worked out, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I mean, a lot of like Total Biscuit posted that the viewer numbers are down a lot, and I kind of think that's just the novelty of it wearing off and people switching to watching VODs more and whatever else. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk. I mean, a lot to kind of wait and see what happens in 2013. And one of the biggest things is definitely going to be about Pro League and just how that kind of the division right now over there in Korea is going to work itself out, because it's hurting right now. I think just the overall numbers, that the potential numbers at least. I mean, I think Pro League could be, if they had all the players right now, I think Pro League would be still quite compelling right now. And I don't know, what do you think? What do y'all think? Do you think Pro League will, that format will expand, outside of Korea? Because right now we don't have anything really like. We have some team leagues, but I mean,
online team leagues do not really compare. Like, and without having, I mean, it's like when you watch the EG Masters Cup, right? Like, you get to the ace match, and you're like, okay, it's just another best of 3, whatever. But when you're watching Pro League, like, this guy gets up from his team's bench and they're all like looking at him, and it's like, it means
you have
something,
more of a
right?
team feeling. There's more of a team feeling. I talked about this before. We cannot have team leagues in North America if we don't have teams. And technically, we don't have teams. We have a group of players put together for a marketing brand, to market a brand. That's it. They're not real team leagues. I've talked about this before. It bugs the crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you look at the Complexity House, I'm sure there's some camaraderie there if you get those guys together. But, like, you compare it to something like, Acer, where you fly in Bly and you sit beside Scarlet. I don't really think there's that much camaraderie there. They live in different continents, they don't play together or everything else. But, you just can't mimic Pro League and what it is. I think it is so important because it gives some of these players who they're not going to win, but they can go out and they can snipe a big name and they get recognition for that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really like that. It's like how you can have a good run at IPL 5, but you still got top 16, and top 16 is not that good enough, so you don't get that credit. Whereas if you're able to snipe, Flash or Jadon, then it's like, oh shit, we'll give him a lot of attention.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
one win means a whole lot than 8 hours of playing good StarCraft.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, I think the closest thing that's not Team League, the closest thing was the foreigners versus Korean setup. It's something that you don't have to do for a long season. You can do it for one event, and you can have this best of one, that type of feeling too, where it only takes one game to maybe snipe somebody. I think that's probably the closest thing to possibly having a feel like that.
Yeah, but that's still just a glorified show match, really. So,
well, not if you made it a whole weekend. It's like when I was talking to Frank and Kevin when they were on the show and making it a Ryder Cup, kind of event. It would be more so than just just like a single thing. Just a best of 7. That's it. I mean, it would be like a full out weekend. So that would be pretty cool to see. But let's see. I kind of got off topic a little bit there, but. But kind of so talk to us a little bit about now now that you're part of the Good Show and working with James and all those guys. What are you doing there exactly?
Okay, so to explain that, basically I kind of met the guys when the first time I did a European event. Once again, I got to give a lot of credit to Apollo for pretty much recommending me and convincing the people who needed the convincing that I'm worthwhile. I did what did I do? I did the WCS Nordic Finals, so that was for Sweden, Finland, Norway, and Denmark. And then the weekend after, I did the Ace Frog Summer. And between the events, I stayed at the Good Studio, so I kind of met all the guys then. And they basically did that same kind of thing multiple times, where I'd go to Europe for 2 weeks and work 2 events and stay at the studio between. And so just kind of got to know everyone, particularly James and Trance are kind of the 2 main guys behind the studio. And kind of like I said before, I've talked to a lot of different leagues. I kind of went in depth a bit how I talked to GSL. And I really just kind of like James and Trance a lot. They've, I think, a very similar kind of ideology in terms of a lot of the way they approach eSports, the projects they want to do. It's not about kind of making it too professional. It's about catering to the audience that's there and, giving them the best products. So I got along well with them, and then so we kind of started talking. Well, it's like, what if you were more based in Europe? Blah blah blah. What about this? What about that? And so at this point now, essentially, I kind of stayed over after DreamHack Winter, kept doing the Good Show, kind of talking more about the future planning, because 2013 is going to be a weird year. It's all I can really say right now. It's all I really know right now.
Weird.
But
why weird?
That's an interesting.
I think it's just going to be a weird year because I think I think Blizzard is going to take a much bigger hand in things, and I just have no idea what their plans are. I feel like I would have gotten some inside information at BWC, but I had food poisoning the entire time, so
I know.
I was not at any of those conversations. But yeah, I don't know. But to get back to the original point, so now, I mean, my plan right now is to go back at the start of January for about 3 months, and then I'll be staying at the studio more. And then after 3 months, I'll kind of decide, like, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to go back? Maybe I've had some crazy offer where I'm making a boatload of money and James just can't compete, so I ditched him. I don't know. But I really like working with the studio, and so, as you said, I've kind of been pretty regularly on the Good Show, which I think is important because
absolutely.
Anyone who doesn't know me, like, I kind of read every single thing on Team Liquid Reddit and like other random alternative sites as well. Like, I just am very in touch with everything going on, so I think I'm a good addition to the Good Show, obviously. We just kind of talk more about things. So while James is kind of more like big picture esports kind of stuff, I'm more StarCraft specific. So it gives a good kind of balance to the show where sometimes in terms of certain issues, they didn't have all the history to talk about things. Yep. And I just think the Good Show is actually fucking amazing. Like, I mean, not to knock this show, but this show is kind of more of a podcast. Like, we're kind of a bunch of talking heads on, a screen, right? Whereas the Good Show, everyone's in the same room, so it creates creates a really different dynamic to the show, and I think it's kind of where
We're
you know,
working on our studio.
yeah, obviously you guys would love if you flew me
We're
in.
working on it.
Yeah.
We're all in the same room. But
We
obviously
love the
that's
Too Good Show,
feasible
too.
for like 99% of shows, but it is with the good show. So I think that really makes the show, that much better.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about the good show for me is that you guys just seem like y'all have genuine fun every episode. You know what I mean? And whether it's James just cracking jokes here and there or whatever, or you guys are just having a great discussion over whatever issue that's currently in esports. I mean, you guys are just having a good time in that studio. So that's that rubs off on all the viewers too, right? And
Are
that's
you
why
saying,
guys-
Chris, that you and I don't have a good time on our
No,
show?
man, we freaking freaking slaving through this.
Listen, I really think that James makes that show.
He's good.
But everyone else is now a part of his style. I don't think anyone can duplicate that. I mean, we could try to
I
have.
love Hellspawn being on the show too.
We could
Hellspawn
not
is-
have as much fun as he has,
Yeah.
because we're not James. That's for sure.
Exactly. But it's all good. I mean, every show has their own, is doing their own thing, and you guys are doing an awesome job, obviously. But yeah,
Especially when you send your viewers over to our show. afterwards.
exactly. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we did that I think last time.
Yeah,
Show always goes long. We talked about this with ChanmanV actually. Our show always goes long. We never know what we're doing, but I mean, that's the one thing about Good Studio. It's all about cross pollination and making sure people. I'm always shocked by people who just aren't aware of. Like people are like, yeah, I'm into esports, and they just like don't know about a whole kind of quadrant or set of things going on. It always kind of surprises me, but yeah, the more cross pollination, I think the better.
Yeah, the one thing I wish people
absolutely.
did more, and people used to do it like quite often on their streams, is really, when you're done streaming or the show is about to end, really recommend something for the folks to go to. I mean, I feel like that should be happening a lot more because, like you just said, there's a lot of folks that don't know about like Climbing the Ladder or just other shows like
We're already in a very small market of overall gaming. And if we're not sharing, then we're even smaller because, like you said, there are pockets of people that have no clue. There's pockets of people that have no clue what the Too Good Show is.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's crazy. So we need to share all of that.
Really?
Grow it.
I mean, I feel like everybody knows about the Too Good
No,
Show.
I think honestly, I think there's a lot of people. It is also the Good Show, not the Too
the
Good
Good
Show.
Show.
But,
Okay, I always throw the two. It's the Good Show.
But yeah, no, I think there is a lot of like North American people, especially probably people on the West Coast that just like don't really know the show exists. And I mean, I think actually in terms of promotion, it could actually be promoted a bit better. But I mean, maybe having a rebroadcast. But like, it's amazing. People just kind of operate in their bubble. I
have friends on my Skype channel, Chris, that I've worked with in esports for 10 years who didn't know that, there was a good show. They didn't know that James was doing anything. It's just, and that's months after they started.
Well, I mean, it's kind of telling that it's just not easy to market. Like there's no. I mean, you can say TL is like the decentralized place for everyone to go for StarCraft related things, but even on TL, I mean, you get on the calendar, but even if you're on the calendar, it's not very obvious, like what's available. All the content. It's a lot to do with like when you're looking at TL. If you happen to be looking at TL, sure, you can look at the calendar, you can see what's on, but it's not that easy. I mean, for me,
I mean, there's like the drop down box where it says more, and you can mouse over like calendar dates. And I mean, like I'm a hawk about looking and seeing what's coming up, but I think a lot of people they don't. If you live on the West Coast, you just kind of when you get home from work, open up TL, and it's like you're never going to see the Good Show live because it's never live then, and there isn't really a thread, and if there is, there's just one, and so I mean. It's interesting. Like it's funny. I think Axlav was having this debate where he said like the majority of people who watch MLG don't even know that GSL exists. Like that's his argument. It's like, well, I don't think it's that many, but I'm sure there's a ton of people that have no idea.
Yeah.
I brought this up last week. There's no doubt I'd love to do this. I'd actually love to put a survey together for just the people. I take classes at a community college, and most of them are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And I can guarantee it. I've talked with people before. I've seen them playing League of Legends. I'll come up to them and talk to them a little bit. I would give them my card when I was at CSN, whatever, introduce them to the site. And I'd ask them, do you know anything about MLG? Do you know anything about eSports? And they'd look at me all funny like they had no clue what the word is that I just said. And most of them had no clue what MLG was. And if we're talking North America in events, you would think that people would know what MLG is. Granted, MLG was very much console for years until the last 2 years, but still, with everything that's going on, as much stuff that we see, people putting out stuff on Forbes and things like that, and everyone tweeting about all these articles that are being shared, you'd be surprised at the number of gamers that have no clue what esports is, let alone what MLG is. It's absolutely crazy, and this is where I've talked before about bridging the gap, trying to find ways that we can reach out to these people and get that information out there. And we've just mentioned, maybe there's a couple things that Team Liquid could do just slightly different. Maybe a featured stream list. I know they kind of have something like that, but just something that would set it apart even more, and we might find that people start tuning in more. But there's a lot of little different things that we could do differently to get the word out.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say though, as much as I completely agree with you, John, and there are a lot of folks that don't know anything about esports. This last week was probably the first time I actually ran into a random friend of the family or relative that actually knew what esports was, and I had not said anything to them. So it was actually pretty cool. He watches. I guess he said he watches Husky YouTube videos, and he watched the last MLG. So, it is getting there. We're slowly getting to at least to all the gamers. So hopefully 2013 will continue that, and I'm really excited to see. There was not very much hoopla around Twitch releasing their SDKs to all the publishers, and I want to see if anything ends up coming. Anything comes to fruition with that. Meaning, if any of the streams will start playing actually in the clients, because that's what the SDK is for. The SDK is for these publishers to just add it to their code and to have the clients show it. So that's one of the things. We're going to have Kevin Lane on here in a few weeks, so that's one of the things that I really want to talk to him about, and I think that would be amazing. Imagine if Blizzard's featuring a show or a stream every week. I mean, that'd be pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the future, it's all the features in Dota 2 and more are going to be essential. It's just, that's just the natural progression, and Dota 2 is so far ahead in terms of the features in that game for broadcasting, for esports, and even just, for playing socially with your friends. It's they kind of got it right, and I think it's going to give them a big leg up in the long run.
Yeah, Dota 2 is going. I wonder how many more events are going to be this year, because 1 event, 2 events a year, big events a year isn't
yeah, well, I mean,
enough, man.
it's a really, I could talk a lot about the way the Dota scene is structured, just in terms of the international kind of. It's why doesn't Navi just go on a vacation for 9 months and then train before the international?
That's exactly.
I think that's what I'd do if I was a professional Dota player on Navi. Because what is winning, splitting $30,000 at DreamHack, 5 ways, and maybe 6 if you have a manager, compared to, winning $1 million is kind of what's the point?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what happens, right? Nothing happens for about 9 months, or there's some crazy team turmoil for about 9 months, and then 3 months they finally get together and just grind out practice. So. But yeah, so speaking of 2013, I guess we can segment to this. What would you like to see happen in the next year? What's the I guess the main maybe 3 things you'd like to see happen?
I'd just like to see Heart of the Swarm get released and really kind of improve the game a lot. I'd love to see some deeper structural changes to the game, but I'd like to have the way workers mine scale differently. So having 4 mining bases and 5 mining bases is more valuable than it is right now. Because the way it is now, essentially, if you've got 70 workers, all you need is 3 bases, and that's it, right? There's no benefit to getting a 4th other than mining out your first base. It doesn't scale like it did in Brood War. So you mean
You mean less mineral patches, or you mean just mineral
I
patches
don't know.
with different,
The change could come in a lot of different ways. It could be based on how workers mine. It could be based on the setup. But personally, to me, that would really help the game a lot. That's just like that's the dream right there. That will never happen. In terms of more realistic things that like I'd like to see happen with StarCraft is just the tournaments working better together to just have a more cohesive story. I think tournaments need to get their heads out from their asses in terms of the map pools they use, because that to me is actually like the number one factor that is actually probably resulted in the decline in viewership. If they had qualified people making decisions about map pools, they could have avoided, like Home Story Cup, top 4 Zerg. Listen, that can be avoided. You could do something about that. You don't have to change the balance at all. And you just need the right qualified people there making the decisions about that. But no league wants to like hire someone to do that and do whatever and blah blah blah. So I would really like to see map pools get fixed, and I hope. I actually think Kespa being involved is going to fix a lot of that. And then a third thing, I guess. I don't know.
observers getting paid like millions of dollars.
I would like my puny wage to go up fivefold. That would be great.
Fivefold, wow, that'd be.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually see that in 2013. I'd like to see someone find out. 10 years ago, I bet on between both my hands, between the 10 fingers I have, you could count the number of people that are actually paid in esports, besides those that owned organizations, like Angel Munoz and things like that. But I'd be interesting to see if the numbers continue to climb for people that are getting paid to do some of the things like what Michael's doing. Observers starting to get paid, more admins starting to get paid, even if it's small amounts. I mean, I was talking to a friend that works at ESL, and he's been there for probably 4 years, and he's just now getting paid to be an administrator, like an event supervisor. It's a small amount, but for a college guy, a few $100s a month extra to do what you're already doing, that's great. But I'd love to see those numbers continue to climb in 2013. I'd love to see somebody put some sort of report or do an investigative report about the number of people that are finally getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, 2012 was a good year. I was just, talking to Adebisi about that. 2012 was a good year for a lot of folks that have been working hard for a long time, and finally getting some full-time jobs with, guys like, let's say, like Kalaris, right? Guys like Mike here, or Adebisi here, and Axel Toss, and I mean, you can kind of throw Axlab in there, but he's a player, so it's a little bit different. So, there have been a lot of folks community folks we've seen for a long time now finally landing, full-time jobs or jobs that you could qualify as making a living, right? So
yeah, I think that'll happen even more so. And honestly, to me though, it's not. To me, the biggest catalyst for that is just developer support. I think, especially in 2013 and onwards too, I think developers are gonna, because they're like you look at leagues and teams and even like peripheral manufacturers, like they don't really have that much money to put in and pay people. Like leagues are and teams are just kind of trying to stay afloat and so forth. And then peripheral sponsorships, how far can they carry them? But I mean, I went and saw the hobby yesterday, and there's a Blizzard ad for the World of Warcraft expansion at the start of the game, right? Like, these companies have a lot of money, and, with Valve hosting the International, with Riot doing God knows what the hell Riot is going to do, because I try and read about it, and I don't know anything about Season 3 other than it's going to be like...
I'm not even sure the teams know what they're doing.
I don't think Riot knows what they're doing, to be honest. In terms of, they don't know what they're doing, but they also have no idea what in fact they're planning to do for Season 3. So, but there's a lot of money behind them, and I think Call of Duty, probably money coming in there. All these developers are just going to do God knows what, and I think it's going to really shake things up a lot. I think it's going to really complicate things.
I think we'll see in 2013 a lot of people taking a leap. And trying some new things even. I mean, we've seen new things continue to happen. I mean, it's great. They're not necessarily new things. We've seen things getting better. We talked about this with Paul before, and he's mentioned it. I think he mentioned it at the Congress, how, before you were casting behind a table with a tablecloth on it, and that was about about it, and we've progressed to a point where it's almost like studio quality.
Yep.
And shows like The Good Show, where it's in a studio and everyone's there. So we're starting to see a lot of improvements. But I think what we'll see in 2013 is a lot of people, a lot of organizations and people trying some very new things. A Riot doing a very different thing with how they're going to do the league. I think that's something new, and we'll see a lot of more developers getting involved, and they're going to try new things. So I think I think 2013 will be even more of an interesting year than 2012 was. I think 2012 was building on the success from 2011. 2013 will be about what can we do differently? Where can we go next?
Yeah, I agree. I think you're totally right. Like 2012 is like building things, just kind of good momentum moving forward. But I think 2013 it'll be a lot of, I think for StarCraft it'll kind of, I mean, Heart of the Swarm's going to give a big surge, but I think a lot of StarCraft is going to be about like settling and finding the steady state of where things are like kind of meant to be in terms of how big the audience is right now and all that stuff. But I mean, I think in terms of like the MOBA scene, I think it's going to be just like chaos. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like Riot is going to war with Valve, but Valve doesn't really care. But like, you know, Riot just has so much money they're putting into this, and like, I don't know. I think it'll be really interesting to see.
I mean, they have a huge opportunity. And I've said this before, and I've even put my name in the hat for Riot. I mean, I'd love to help there, but it's pretty crazy, all the things that they want to do and all the money that they're putting into it. They have a huge opportunity to do some really interesting things and to create some real structure for esports, but specifically for their game. And I'm not sure that's a great thing for the developers to be so involved, because it kind of fragments the different communities. In fact, I don't think it's a good thing at all. But I think what they're doing, I think the idea behind what they're doing is really good. But I agree. I think the MOBA is going to be kind of all over the place with people trying new things and people trying to get, you know, a larger foothold on the market. I think FPS is. I think you'll see some crazy things going on with FPS as well.
Yeah.
FPS is kind of like the wild card. What interests me most about the MOBA scene will just be if, because I mean, DreamHack has always done their DreamHack thing where they just run all the games and that's how they do it, right? They have Dota, they have HON, they have League of Legends. But in terms of North America, all these big leagues, aside from NASL, who just did one season of HON, kind of promotionally, it's been MLG and IPL even more so, just really, you know, running League of Legends. But if Riot takes all that in-house and all of a sudden you're running qualifiers instead and this like minor league stuff, like where does Dota sit? Because I mean, you look at like North America primetime Dota content and the league EG does, the raid called Dota 2 League, like they're killing it in terms of like numbers. Like they're shitting on their Masters Cup for StarCraft, and I feel like there's this big gaping hole in the North American scene for an establishment to come out and run Dota properly. And honestly, I feel like
they may be able to do that, Michael, because if Riot is going to pull things in-house, and even if they go to MLG or they go to IPL, as long as they don't say, okay, if you run our qualifiers, you have to be exclusive to our MOBA. As long as they don't say that, which I think they'd be making a huge mistake if they did. I think Dota is sitting back, Valve's sitting back and going, well, this is great. Let Riot do that. Because now it opens the door for us to get into IPL, into MLG, and so on. And I think it's good for them. So I think, like what you said earlier, where it's going to be all over the place. Like we really won't even have a clue about what's going on until the end of 2013. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I think that's exactly kind of what we'll see. Is just we're not quite sure where everything's going to be. I mean, David Ting said that we could expect. What was it? What was the number of games at the next IPL? The number of different titles?
Wasn't it like 7 or something?
I think it was 7. Yeah, and Capcom being one of them.
So
right?
what? The 7 games. I mean, there's a huge opportunity for some games to get involved. I'm sure they already know them, but and I think you'll see more of that, especially as more developers get involved. You're going to see them pumping money to get their name, to get their game on. I mean, at an event. That's the reason HON was at NASL. I can tell you that straight up. That's the reason.
Right.
Tribes was there. they would never, NASL would never have ran a Tribes event had it not been paid for.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'd agree.
But
with
I think NASL could pop up and do a Dota tournament with a developer paying for it, basically, and I think it could go over great for them.
Oh, absolutely.
If they have the right... NASL is always a wild card, because it took them a while to get going proper with StarCraft, and I don't know if they're going to need that year again to really get going good, or if they'd be able to do it from the get-go. I think they kind of know their shit better now. So I think, I mean, if they started with some Dota, they could... And I mean, that getting in early with the community is, I really feel so important. It's like you look at how the League of Legends community, and I mean, I don't follow League of Legends too well, but I feel like the League of Legends community is much more connected to IPL than to MLG. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's kind of how I see it.
I think
and IPL just got in much earlier with...
I have that reminds me of a question that we were going to try to remember and ask you. If Riot came to you and offered you an absurd amount of money, would you switch to working with League of Legends over StarCraft 2?
I mean, if it was doing it, it's kind of funny because I had someone from Riot come to me and say like, "Hey, we're looking for full-time in-game directors," and it's like, for me, I can't imagine ever like observing that game full-time. Because, I mean, I do a StarCraft event, and, like, some of the more gut-wrenching MLGs, I think it's, like, 14 hours straight of observing. And by the end of it, I hate StarCraft. Like, I'm just sick and tired. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I want to drink. And, like, I'm tired of StarCraft. And to do that for League of Legends, like, I think after the first 20 minutes, I'd be wanting to kill myself. So... it would be pretty hard. It would need to be like a lot of money, enough money so I'm like really high on drugs the entire time, probably. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, League of Legends. Like, do you play? I mean, you don't love League of Legends as much as you love StarCraft, right? So, I mean, that's
no.
the main thing, right? I mean, but so John, you brought up a good point about, and Mike, you agreed with him about the developers getting into this, having them get into it, and it would fragment the games more. At least the esports, just esports in general, because each games would have kind of their own type of ecosystem, I guess, or community. That's kind of inevitable, isn't it? I mean, for me, having all these, like having League and StarCraft on the same weekends for me has never felt right, because I feel like it's just cannibalizing each other in a way, right? With these live events, like there's some folks that like both games, and you can't be in two places at one time, especially when you're at the live events. Like for instance, John, when I was in Austin, right, with you, like Lone Star Clash, I didn't see any of the League stuff,
right?
Because I was just watching the StarCraft stuff, even though I would have liked to have seen some of the League stuff.
I think there's a solution to that. It's been done before, but people get so pissy about it. And that is like on Sunday for your championship round. So if your final rounds, let's say the semifinals of each game, they're actually ran from one stage, but people get so pissy about that because
I think you can do that, and I think you plan it right and get the audience ready for it, and I think that's like truly challenging, and I think especially with developers getting more involved, it's going to be way harder to do that. Like for example, I mean, you look at DreamHack Winter, it's like the League of Legends. I have no idea why, but the League of Legends finished like on Friday or Saturday, and everything else finished on Sunday. And I mean, I don't know why it was ran like that, but you've got already them not running it on the same day even. But I think if you put all the games on the same stage, I think you just need to structure it a certain way. Like you can't have a best of 5 Dota finals, right smack dab in the middle. So everyone's like, all right, time for 4 hours of Dota, guys. Like. It needs to be kind of structured in a certain way differently, but I mean, if you open the day with MOBAs, they're a bit longer, and then, like, I think people have no problem sitting through, a little bit of Quake, Fighter.
It has been done before, but the complaint was, I think, in the and I can't remember which event it was. It was a huge.
It was DreamHack Summer, I think.
Yeah, the complaint was that the scheduling is that they were like throwing League of Legends down the throats of the StarCraft 2 fans, and that's not really the case. I think they didn't put a structure out ahead of time, a full schedule enough to give people that really only want to tune into StarCraft 2 an exact time as to when that was going to happen. I think that was one of the problems. But I agree, it can be done. It just has to be done in such a way that it's viable for everyone that's
I think
involved.
Thor Open, when we did that, we basically did all the finals in a row on the last day. It didn't quite work out too well in certain regards, but it was StarCraft 2 first, then Counter-Strike Go, and then Dota 2 at the end. And it like, you can't have too many games, I feel, and you really need to kind of plan it and have a. I feel like those games in Sweden at that event, it worked well, but you just kind of need to know your audience and need to. I don't know. It's certainly weird. And StarCraft was on so early that there wasn't really a crowd. It was only like 10. But if you have that smooth flow, I feel like certain games kind of cross-pollinate better than others. I feel like you can kind of always throw in some Quake and people aren't going to be super upset. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've never even freaking played Quake, but I can just kind of watch. Like, yeah, this is cool. You know, I can see these timers. There seems to be like some stuff going on here that makes sense, but like, you can't mix in 4 hours of a MOBA game and expect it to work.
Right. I don't think you could mix console Call of Duty in there sprinkled in between League of Legends.
Yeah,
wouldn't work.
But I feel like StarCraft and Dota, and then I don't know, maybe it's personal preference, but I can watch them together with the finals, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like the chat is always the best kind of like measure of where, like, you know, the hive mind of the viewership is at. And I feel like when you do StarCraft and Dota, it's like the chat isn't going wild shitting on the game, but as soon as you put League of Legends in, the chat is no longer happy because it's either the League people that don't want to watch the other stuff or I don't know.
Well, I think that kind of, you know, dislike or conflict between the two communities, I think that's going to start to recede too this coming year.
I was just going to comment on that, Chris.
Everybody's going to be working on their own. And it's a little bit of the fragmentation like you were talking about, but I think everybody's going to be concentrating more on their own communities and building up their own game. You know, Heart of the Swarm, everybody's going to be thinking about Heart of the Swarm and not really looking over across the way and seeing League and all those numbers anymore. It's going to recede, I think.
Well, one thing I wanted to say about what you just commented on, and people are talking about it in the chat, there's always going to be hate between games. There just always is. I think the difference is, I think what people need to start to understand better is, one, stop complaining about the hate. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be there, no matter what. When I was growing up, baseball players hated soccer players, and I was a soccer player. We couldn't stand the baseball players. We couldn't stand the basketball players. There's always going to be differences between whose game is better. The difference is that the thing is that we need to start looking at it as an esports title. Whether we like the game or not, we need to understand that it's part of what will help us all grow esports. If we, it's okay to hate on the game. I think people that are calling for all this hate to go away, I don't even like the word hate because it's not really hate. You just strongly dislike it. I think for the people that are calling for that to just end, I think you need to get realistic. It's not going to happen. It's just part of what happens in gaming. I mean, with Quake players, we couldn't, we always gave shit to the Counter-Strike players. Like, I really don't want to sit behind a box and throw grenades at a window for 40 minutes. That's not what I want to do. But you need to, at the end of it, you need to understand that you just need to respect it. I mean, that's just not something I can do. I don't play League of Legends. I don't play StarCraft 2 either. But I enjoy both of the games being a part of esports. I couldn't watch League of Legends for more than 5 minutes before getting a headache. I am still understanding StarCraft 2 as much as I've been involved in it for 2 years. But I respect both games as part of esports, and I think we need more of that. But at the same time, I can certainly trash on League of Legends. I can certainly make comments that I can't watch StarCraft because I can't tell the difference between the players. And I can make fun of Counter-Strike all day.
What does that
They
mean?
need pro mode skins.
Oh,
if you were a Quake player, you'd understand pro mode skins. I need promo skins for StarCraft. I need bright green and bright, purple or something. Different colors, because I still can't tell the difference between between a fight. But I think you can. I think there's room for people to dislike other games. If we just keep calling for it, we're just wasting our breath, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hate League of Legends, so
I mean,
whatever, guys. I don't know.
I mean, you hate League of Legends, but are you not rooting for their success though? I mean, because it's only going to spill over to StarCraft. I mean,
I don't necessarily think that, like, the the thing that makes League of Legends unique is that it's kind of not. It's kind of Riot. It's not really League of Legends. It's like, when Riot pays a tournament organizer to run an event, and now they're spending this extravagant amount of money on season 3, salarying all these players, giving them mansions, giving them whatever else. It's like, does this help everyone else, or does it kind of set an unrealistic standard? Because basically, like StarCraft community, it's been like grassroots kind of growth. Everything is kind of started, at the bottom, and like these teams get better. I remember when EG announced that they got Monster, it was like, shit, EG got Monster. This is a big deal.
Yep.
Now they're going to be able to, step up what they're doing, right? But then when Riot comes in and it's just kind of setting the bar here, I don't know if this is in the shop, but they're setting the bar like way up high, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, how do I start a StarCraft team when I can't even fly these players to an event? And then you look at League of Legends, it's like, well, these pro gamers, they're already getting all of this. And I think it's a very slippery slope when you inject that amount of money. And I mean, this is not just about League of Legends. This is about developers getting involved. Anytime a developer does anything, it can really kind of, upset the balance of what I would consider natural growth to a scene. I think you see this big time in Dota when all the focus is on the international. Why does MLG even want to run Dota if they're going to be giving $50,000 away when in 2 months they're going to be all the players, they don't even care because they're not going to show their real builds because they're waiting for the international, right? Like same thing even happened to MLG running League of Legends. They have their finals and the teams don't give a shit because they've got the North American regionals coming up next, so they just play like a bunch of idiots in your finals and shit on your tournament. And so it's like, well, and this is MLG trying to build something, trying to build a league, and then it doesn't even matter because it's insignificant compared to what the developer is doing. So I think no matter what, you have to be very, very skeptical of anything a developer does in the space. I mean, if I had it my way, I feel like the developers would they kind of create the playground, but that's it. Then all the other private companies can come in. And, down the line, if MLG's making $1 gajillion, then Blizzard could be like, all right, you're using our IP, you can pay us this, and hopefully it's not something too outrageous. But when they come in and control it, it makes things really complicated.
Michael, it sounds like maybe you should have stepped away from casting a lot earlier because you seem to have a really good handle on the esports community and the business part of it.
It's always on this show, man.
More of that.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, precisely, that's actually another reason I like the observing, because I can focus less on the game itself and, think about the game and think about the scene and community and, work in ways that, hopefully benefit that, because I think there is actually a lot of disconnect in a lot of ways between some of the leagues and, the audience, right? The community that watches what their product is. And if you have that disconnect, then you're kind of missing the point. So it's kind of one of my goals is to really be able to do more than just, be a weekend staff, but actually help, planning things and making sure it's the right decisions for the audience that's going to consume it.
Right, right. I mean, so your statement about the developers, I don't know, I kind of playing devil's advocate here. A lot of what you said, Mike, has a lot more to do with just people infusing like a large amount of money into the into the industry, whether it's in the form of prize money or whatever. I mean, what's the difference between what you're talking about with Riot and let's just say some big MLG investor coming in and saying, hey, let's give away $1 million for prize pool and let's just fuck up just basically the market.
I mean, I think it is kind of similar to just more VC money coming in and being like, all right, we're going to try and build a brand and here's $100 million, give it all away in 4 years and see where we land. Like,
right.
Like that's kind of similar to a developer coming in, but a developer is much more complicated because all of a sudden Riot is sponsoring an event. So why do they want to help promote an event that's also giving floor space to Dota 2 and promoting a competitor to their game? And so the thing is, if that VC money comes in and flounders, then it's whatever, that money was wasted, blah blah blah. But to come in as a developer, it's much more inherently involved, and then it also kind of creates the aspect where it's like, I mean, EG doesn't have a League of Legends team, right? Why not? I mean, I have to imagine it's because of something to do with Riot, right? Like if you pick up a StarCraft player, it's kind of like, okay, whatever, you're paying some guy and maybe you fly him around and give him some money, right? But if you pick up a League of Legends teams, I think a lot more goes into that because of Riot's tight hand. And so once again, it really kind of impacts the natural growth, I would consider. Because to me, it should just kind of come up from nowhere. It's like it should just be like people are playing the game.
Organic. Should be organic
exactly,
growth.
Organic growth. That's what I think is most sustainable. So, and I mean, yeah, you can do well with investment money, absolutely. But
Chris, why didn't you introduce me to Michael earlier again?
Well, I thought you guys knew each other. I
No,
can't believe you
but
guys
the guy,
haven't run into each
he's
other.
right in
It's
line
so
with a lot
crazy.
of the ideas that I share.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this stuff is common sense, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's
Yeah,
I mean,
well, you would think so,
honestly.
Michael,
Yeah,
but
I
a lot
don't
of people
know.
just go with the flow. You would think that it makes common sense, but I had to be careful because I'm not bashing on MLG per se, because they're running a business and they're doing things to continue to build their brand. But you would think that it would be common sense. But for 10 years now, MLG's been doing things in such a way that hasn't created organic growth. It did for a point, and it did for their brand, but it didn't create overall esports organic growth. And you would so for us to say, well, it should be common sense, it's just not, because people have become so accustomed to the way things are and the way things that the first people that did something. I mean, people think that because it works in Korea, well, it should work here in North America, and it doesn't work the same. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves. That people are like, oh, well, let's do this. It works in Korea. It's not the same. So for you and me to think that people would understand it, they just don't. A lot of people do not understand growth of esports or how to grow it, because, and honestly, and I have to say this carefully too, a lot of these people they don't do things in their real life that are similar to what they're doing in esports. They don't play sports. They don't start playing Little League and then grow through that and go up and end up playing in high school. So they don't understand how growth in these sorts of competitions work, because ultimately esports is competing. And there's things that work, and we just haven't done them for years.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because I mean, you look at something like MLG, and they've kind of completely changed their business model as I see it. Like, they used to be out there getting, sponsors for teams and kind of owning the Halo teams and everything, and now they've done a much better job kind of stepping back and saying, it's better if, we work with these organizations more. And I think that's the path that really they need to focus on. The more they can help the teams grow, then they don't have to worry about finding the players. Then they can, focus on getting sponsorships, for their own prize pool and venue and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, just so much has changed. I mean, you look at Twitch TV coming up, and it's like, well, shit, that kind of changed the way
it changed everything.
The industry is, right? So
it's it's a lot different now, and that open approach, I think, is better overall. Having more minds, having more smart people thinking about how to grow the industry is much better than just this more walled garden type of thing. And unfortunately, it sounds like Riot is headed towards that direction. So maybe, who knows? Maybe they can make it work. But so why don't we take some callers? A lot of these folks, I think, want to get into the conversation. So let's start taking some callers. For those of you just tuning in the show for the first time, the way we take callers is you add me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV. You can actually call me too, and we'll take callers. We'll also take some questions. We'll kind of alternate, take questions from the stream chat and take callers. So let's see, anything here?
So you can start putting questions in the chat. I'll follow it and try to remember them.
Yeah, John will be in charge of the stream chat questions. But there was a question earlier that's been like one of the first questions when we first started, and they were saying, get Adebisi to do his Destiny impression.
There's no Destiny impression. Like I need In Control here to voice it, and I can do the job. But I will tell you a story about Destiny, because
Right.
I actually watched Destiny before he was ever featured on Team Liquid. I watched him when I was watching, I think, the first time he got 300 viewers. And I used to watch him when he was average 60 to 100. And it was a lot of fun watching him then, because then it was like Steps of War was still on the map pool, and
Oh, man.
and so one time I was searching on the I was watching him, and then I was like, I'm gonna play a game, and then so I kind of still had the stream open, and I start searching on the ladder, and then lo and behold, I get matched with Destiny, and before I can close the stream, I see him load up, and he's he gets a Terran on the loading screen, and then he sees it Steps of War, so immediately he's like fucking 2-racks, just fucking tearing prick, and starts getting mad. So I close the stream, and then I'm like, oh geez, this guy, I've been watching his stream, he's having a bad day, so I can't 2-racks him, so let me see what I should do, and it's Steps of War. So I do like a reactor Hellion build, and I die to like 7 roaches, and he BM'd me really badly, so there you go. That's my story of Destiny.
Good old Destiny, man. Alright, Frag Raptor's calling. Let me pull him in here. I'm going to have to switch the overlays real quick. Frag Raptor's been watching the show for a while, so...
Hello.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, so we've heard, you guys have talked a lot on the show about all the different things coming up in 2013. I just want to get your guys' opinions on what, looking ahead, we've heard if the past has been the year of streaming, the year of the MOBA, whatnot. What do you think the next year is? What is coming up that is going to be the biggest thing of 2013? What is the year of blank and why?
I can go first. I know my answer.
Go for it.
And at the end of 2013, I might say 2014 is actually going to be the year of this, but it's the year of the developer, I would say. It's just, I think developers are getting in big, and yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, too.
I think that would, I'll be different, because although I agree with that to a point, I think it'd be the year of chaos.
Interesting.
Maybe collaborated chaos.
Yeah.
Combining those two words, there's going to be a lot of people working together, but there's going to be a huge amount of chaos.
I think
So
especially
that's
in the
what I'll
MOBA
say
scene, chaos.
Yeah, the MOBA scene is going to be, just the Wild West. Pretty much the MOBA scene will be what StarCraft 2 was, like, 3 years ago, maybe. Two and a half, 3 years ago. Maybe even worse, honestly. It's just so much money. You know, it's like big money being thrown around, so it's gonna be crazy. But I don't. If you're asking for a title, I don't know if there is gonna be a title. Dota 2, maybe. I mean, that's the only logical one. I think. I don't see anything coming out of nowhere right now.
We may see some. I think we may see some more sustainable FPSs involved. I think the FPS communities, which help get esports started, I think they're starting to see, what are we missing out on here? What are we doing wrong? So I think you'll start to see a lot more involvement. Black Ops 2 is definitely an opportunity, but again, for a lot of people watching the show, it's a console game, and they have no concept of what it's like to play, in the console community. It's definitely quite different. I think there's huge opportunity there. I think there's a huge opportunity there. Whether it will cultivate, we'll see. But I think FPS, you could see some things with FPS. People keep mentioning Reborn. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I think that's like a 2-year project. So
I think that's also. I think that's
like 2014, maybe 2015. I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll see.
All right, thanks for the question, buddy.
See ya.
Can I get this one in real quick before I
go
lose
for
it? One of the questions was, what do you guys think about Blizzard All-Stars? Do you think it'll be able to compete with Dota and League of Legends, since Blizzard said they want to put money into it?
I think so. I mean, Blizzard said that they see it as an esports title, and quite frankly, I see it as a perfect way to get some of these much-needed esports features into StarCraft 2. So I'm keenly looking forward to it. To me, when I look at Blizzard All-Stars, what I've read about the game is that instead of kind of being a more watered-down Dota, it's like just a different MOBA game. They've added like towers running out of ammo and all this other stuff that to me, and way less heroes. It's like maybe a dozen or 20 or so. I don't know, like not like friggin' hundreds, right? So,
which is important.
I think
it's what's important for the viewer to actually be able to understand the game.
It kind of makes it easier to follow. I think it makes the strategies get more ironed out. So I mean, I'm really interested in the title. I mean, I don't see myself having personal involvement or anything, but I think it's got some really big advantages. I think just being a Blizzard title makes it huge by default. And then you've already got these companies like MLG. I think Mr. Bitter from NASL has come out and said, like, we're interested in Blizzard Dota. And it's like when you already have such a close relationship with Blizzard, it becomes very attractive, I think, to pick up that title as opposed to pick up something like Dota 2. But I think maybe Blizzard is more able, more willing to, play nice and maybe let the leagues have multiple titles like that a little bit easier, even if they're financially supporting them in some ways. So I think there's a ton of potential for the game. I think it just needs to have a big player base, and then all those connections with the leagues are already there. It'll just be very interesting to see when it comes out.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be a big, it's going to be a big title release. When's the date on that? Do you know?
I don't think they've put out any date on that.
It's probably like 2016.
I feel like it kind of needs to be. I don't know. I don't know what the best time for that game to come out, because I was kind of in the mindset that like this shit needs to come out soon.
Yeah.
But maybe even giving Dota and like give League another 2 years of being out, give Dota another year and a half being out. Maybe after that time, people are like, yeah, I'd like to try a new game more so than right now. So maybe if it was farther off, it might be better. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it comes at the same time as Legacy of the Void or some shit like that.
Yeah, or just the second gen of MOBAs, right? Not the same exact maps and.
I mean, you got to figure like how long has League of Legends been out? Is that game maybe starting to be a little bit dated? I don't know.
I mean, eventually, it's just like any game, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think all
games
get dated.
Yeah, of course.
But the those that really enjoy the game. And maybe they don't even enjoy the game. As long as Riot's pumping money into it and there's prize money to be won, they may not really enjoy the game much anymore, but they're going to continue to play it. And there are games, I mean, look, Quake Live's been around, Quake's been around for 10 years, and people still play. So there will always be a community. Again, once money starts to get involved is where you start to see a shift, and people say, well, Quake is not an esport anymore. Well, that's definitely not true, because Quake is the granddaddy of esports. But it's not what we consider to be a viable large production type esport anymore. And so maybe League of Legends goes away in that regards, and I think there is a possibility that they can make a huge mistake in putting so much emphasis on segmenting or fragmenting League of Legends just through what they're doing as a developer. That might hurt them. I don't know. But I think we'll see a lot more communities with a lot more money in all of the communities. What big games we will see on the circuit or on the that the organizations are running, I think that all has to do with money.
Yeah. For me, it's like with dated games, to keep them interesting. Like, let's just talk about. I know we always talk about real life sports and that sort of thing, but let's just talk about real life sports. Those sports are I mean, they've been around forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet they still maintain their entertainment value to all of us. And are huge. It's a huge industry. Well, I think for games to be like that, our games, there has to be some impressive aspect to it. And I always bring up the Brood War example for this, which was, I didn't really play Brood War that much, and I was heavy into Warcraft 2, and then I played Starcraft proper, and then kind of took a break and just kind of missed the whole Brood War thing, which is crazy. But the times I did watch Brood War and was kind of intrigued by it, kind of like pulled back in, was just watching the players' speed. Like being told that their APM, which was real APM at the time, right? Real APM was 300 actions per minute or whatever. That part of it was actually relatable to me. Even though I didn't really play the game anymore, but it was impressive to me. So if I'm not sure you can do that with League.
I think that's to me one of the things about StarCraft. It's the mechanical skill. It's the physical, like you're playing fast. Whereas, all MOBA games is kind of like, you could be a world class player with probably 60 APM.
And I wish, one thing I hope that the tournaments will do this coming year is find a camera angle that really shows all of that. Like a good example is I remember watching the TLO documentary, or not the documentary, but the TLO bit he did on the Discovery Channel, and they were talking about just they were talking about a lot of things, right? But actually just kind of seeing Dario play and just him moving while kind of seeing the screen at the same time. There's something very impressive there's something that like a random person would be very impressed about, and I can totally see that. So I'm hoping that there will be some kind of camera angle or a dual camera that can really pick up like just the whole picture, them controlling what's on the screen and this awesomeness that's happening on the screen. and I think that would help with, that kind of being impressed. I think will increase the longevity of a game, right? And StarCraft has that. Like you said,
I agree with you though that tournaments can do it better. At MLG, what they started doing was like, and they do it well too because they lump in some stupid sponsor with it, right? So it's like the ScanDisk, I think, something, but they would cut to a feed from the player's computer, and then they tell the commentators, be like, okay, we're showing the first-person play of Dongray Goose, so you can see how fast he's playing. But what they didn't do is put an overlay camera of him with his keyboard in the bottom corner. So you'd be like, look how fast he's going, look at the creep spread. And then the commentators, can then hype that up too when they know. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for StarCraft and for production is that, like I kind of said before, you've got, 5 different leagues, 5 different staffs, 5 different setups, but a lot of the same a lot of the same commentator talent. And then I work with a lot of those people. But it's always a different setup, and so just being able to work more together with the same people inevitably produces a better product. And I think that will actually show in 2013, especially I'm hoping with DreamHack. I mean, Apollo has done every single DreamHack StarCraft event. I've done every DreamHack event since the WCS Nordic Nationals, which is like basically like 6 months or 7 months of events. There's a good team there, and so I think all of the leagues, though, are really going to be able to do that, increase that production value.
All right, let's take a look at some more callers here. John, get a I guess a chat question ready here. We got Jason here, so we'll take his call first. He's got a big old fish that he caught. That thing is huge. Oh, he's not there.
I'm reading up. There was.
Let me try one more time. Yeah, I don't know what kind of fish that is. Like a trout?
I can't see it. I'm sad.
Yeah. Huh. Reminds me of
you guys were talking about doing things different. I mean, Lone Star Clash 2, we had the was it
the eye tracker?
Eye tracker.
The eye tracker from I'm missing the name again.
Yeah,
but
it starts with an M. It's like
Tremendous X or something.
No, that's the Swedish keyboard.
Yeah, I keep thinking
Seriously,
Meonix. It's not Meonix. It's gosh, I can't remember either.
I just saw their tweet today too. God, I feel so bad. But anyway, things like that do add value to an event for getting an idea of the sort of physical abilities that it takes for gamers to do what they do. I mean, I remember. I believe it was the ESWC, it may have been watching Grubby versus Moon back in 2005. It was Warcraft 3, correct? Yeah, Merametrics, that's it.
Yep.
Just at the event, and as an administrator, I was just standing behind them, watching them play. And when I would, at that point, we didn't have Twitch, so there was not like this huge production value. I mean, it was with GGL, and they were doing production value that would shame some of the stuff today still, but there wasn't this live stuff. But one thing that was really cool was just standing there and watching them and somebody explaining to me what the actions per minute stuff was. Like, you got to come check out Moon. You got to come check out what he's doing. I'm like, oh, okay, what is this? I didn't know anything much about the game, but watching them do that really gave you a sense of the skill that's required. And things like that need to be shown more, for sure, in gaming. I mean, it's one thing for you to have the facial expressions, and that's great, but everyone can do that now. Let's see some overhead shots where we're watching their fingers and fade away to their face at different moments. I mean, the production value will continue to get better, and I think you'll start to see some of that. But I agree. I think more of that would definitely be cool to see.
Yeah, I actually think the player cameras on the UI at the bottom of the screen, to me, they actually don't add that much because I think you just kind of zone out of it, and I think it's much better to have a full cut to the player's face right after something dramatic in the game happens, because then you're connected to the person and you're like, oh shit, his army just got owned and now he needs to do something, blah blah blah. So it's much more connected, but once again, it comes back down to you need a director there who knows, because it's incredibly difficult. I know at IPL3 they were doing it a lot, and they had a contractor staff who they don't know anything about the game, so they're just kind of taking a cue from a person, And then if they, are late on the queue, or if the even person giving the queue isn't that great, then you cut to them, and then something happens in the game that is also very game breaking, and then you're like, oh, we didn't show what happened in the game. Then you look like a complete idiot. It's much easier to mess up, and when you mess up, you lose a lot more. But I think that adds a lot more to production, because otherwise you just kind of, it's like, okay, there's a there's a tiny box at the bottom of the screen where I can see some poorly lighted guy's face, and I can't really, it doesn't connect the same way.
Think about the difference between watching, and for a lot of people tuning in today who are just StarCraft fans or League of Legends fans and think that eSports started with StarCraft 2 or League of Legends, they're missing out on watching some, as much as I, trash on Counter-Strike. I've said before I really respect it, but I love to trash on it because I'm a Quake player. But watching the teams compete, and how involved the players get, and then doing what they do a lot in console now is called listen-ins, and just listening to the players communicate with each other and talk about their strategy, and then their reactions to just winning a single round. Although sometimes it just got a little overboard and it was annoying, but watching them do these things gives you a sense of the sort of competitiveness that is involved in esports. It's one thing to watch the game, to watch the StarCraft game on the screen and see so-and-so doing that. I mean, seeing, a Zergling here and whatnot. But to watch the players and how they compete in the game, there's just a huge difference. I think that that would be really cool to see a lot more. And I've said this before, StarCraft needs a lot more emotion. People complain about the drama, but it needs a lot more drama. It needs matches where you get to see on the face of these players and their reactions to winning or losing. We need to see a lot more of that.
All right, I'm pulling another caller here. Ooh, where are you? We need some more villains too.
Yeah, we do need more villains. As much as I dislike
everybody's so mannered,
Idra,
man.
I love the fact that he is who he is. I mean, he's a complete asshole.
What's up, guy?
But that's who he is.
Hello, you there?
Yep.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? So I had a quick question about something to do with StarCraft. I think a lot of the big problems with it was the casual players are a lot, like partly what Destiny said. I hate to bring him up again, but he was partly right about it, is that they do kind of alienate casuals. They put them in like Bronze League, everyone makes fun of them. It's kind of like the funny thing to do. Like they always 6 pool or something like that. They don't know how to play. I think a big problem was the custom game scene. It's just not there anymore. I was just wondering if you think that's a big problem. If they could fix it maybe, because I know a lot of the developers say there just isn't the support there anymore. Maybe if Blizzard put the support back in.
Okay, but I don't think that needs to come from the developers. When we look back and we look about what made esports successful from the very beginning, it was organizations like CAL that fed on the fact that if you support the base, the players that are of the low skill, and I've talked about this again many times, all of that can be fixed if organizations, event organizers start concentrating on building and growing organically from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. And if we want to put more emphasis on growing esports as a whole, and StarCraft wants to continue to grow, they do need to find ways, but it's not the developer's responsibility. It's not the game's responsibility. I mean, people play the game at a low level because they enjoy the game. So now find organizations that support players that are still aspiring to be pros. And so we need more organizations like that are feeding the opportunity for guys that are at the lower levels to say, hey, how do I get to that next level? I want to still compete. I want to be in a league. I want to play in front of a crowd. Okay, maybe 12 people show up, but still you get that feeling like you're getting to be a part. You're growing. It's like going from, again, playing club soccer to high school soccer to college soccer to pros. I mean, what is how do we create a structure in which there is actual organic growth. And so I don't think it's on the developer. I don't think you can look to Blizzard and say, man, you've really screwed over all of the people that are not the top 1%. You've really just left us all behind. No, they've given you a ladder. Okay, that's better than most developers will give. Most developers just put a game out there. It's really on the community. And StarCraft 2 is a little bit elitist, and I have to say that, because they expect everything to kind of be done for them. Because
Well,
it's
if you
been done in
played
Korea.
Warcraft 3, like the custom game scene in there
Yeah.
was a lot better than it is
Yeah.
in StarCraft
Yeah,
2.
what do you think?
That's all I'm trying to
I
say.
think there's actually a lot more to this than what people like see. Like people see like, oh, new BattleNet, it's crappier than the original BattleNet, so people aren't making maps. And you know, I think a lot of it actually comes down to just how people game now. Like, you know, why play a StarCraft mod when you can go get Steam and play Super Meat Boy or whatever, right? Like, there's a million other options that are actually competitors to all those little random games out there. But frankly, I do completely agree that the arcade system in its original state, however it was, that didn't really work out. Like, because I play those games just to chill, and like it was Desert Strike. That was the only freaking game I could play, and like it's like, all right,
There's always like one that's always
Desert
really
Strike.
popular.
And so I don't know. I think they really need to go back and get more people playing that.
But how do you get more people playing that? That's the key. Is you find an organization that supports that community. It says, hey, there may only be a few hundred people playing this game, you know, this variation, this mod, whatever you want to call it, but we're going to support them. And maybe we only put, you know, a couple $100 into tournaments, but that will continue to grow.
No, but this is then, like, you don't even, it's like Bunker Wars, another Marine Mania or whatever it is. Like, I think one of the things is, at least this is going by, you know, stuff I've read and what people and what map makers have commented, is that the map making system now, the editor, is actually, it's too complicated. You can do too much with it. You could actually like engineer your own full game with it. But it's not like you can just like make a map and throw a tower down, add the trigger, and then add a path, units to walk. Like it's so complicated. You can't just like with basic knowledge go in and make a tower defense game. It's too hard. It's too time consuming. It's too much of all of these things. And so, I mean, for me, I think actually the biggest step that Blizzard could do to help the custom map making community is actually to go in and kind of create like in the editor, you open up the editor and you know how like there's advanced menus, like
templates.
you hit advanced, so it's like you hit like intermediate mode, and then it's simpler, right? There's not as many buttons. It's just like, okay, you want to make like an RPG or you know like stuff like that. So
yeah, there's like templates modes.
And to me, my hope here is actually that, because as I understand it, Blizzard All-Stars is being built off the StarCraft engine. I am really hoping that a lot of that stuff to truly fix the arcade, to change the editor, would actually come in with with Blizzard All-Stars. Because to be honest, if that doesn't happen, what I see happening is that for Dota 2, they've said that they're going to have like a map editor system, a trigger system. So you'll be able to make your old Warcraft 3 mods in Dota 2, and I think there's a ton of potential there. So I mean, if Blizzard misses the boat here, I think Valve is actually going to be there to pick up a lot of the water, and it's really challenging now for Blizzard because I feel like they've lost us, you know, some of that goodwill, some of the people who, because I mean, these people, they just do it as a hobby, they just go and make random games, and then that's that. So you got to keep those people motivated, and I think a lot of them are kind of discouraged because their games don't get played. So why make games? And so we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen.
So here's an idea I have for just the arcade and the custom games, and I actually kind of agree a little bit more with Mike too on this one. And I think the developer does influence what happens to it, John. Like the UI plays a big part as to whether the users will, you know, see the arcade for one, or just see these custom maps, see these mods, you know, the whole UMS thing. I mean, so they play a big role in it, and I respect the fact that Blizzard's created a platform that you can develop a whole new game off of. You know, you saw the crazy awesome maps that Day9 did, you know, with the Red Bull event, and I mean, you can do some sick stuff with it, right? And that's, like you said, like All-Stars, I think, is being built off this platform. So as a developer, you know, myself, totally respect that. It's really cool. I do agree that they should build like this like more templates, you know, easy, like an easier type of maybe scripting language that people could use to make, you know, the more simpler maps. But one of the projects that I started recently was Wednesday Night Sprites, right? Which is
Yeah.
like me, Machine, Tempo, and Living Pink, just playing through all the arcade, trying to find hidden gems, rating them, really trying to bring some exposure to the arcade and just some of these makers and some of the awesome out they've made. But a step further for me is, the folks that made Nexus Wars, the folks that make, Desert Strike. I mean, it would be cool if they could monetize that. Like, why not create a way, that these folks could do something there too?
Well, that's what
I
they
think that was-
originally were
yeah.
going to do, right? They said there would be a map marketplace,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't know. I just think that to kind of do that at this point, it's kind of like too late. Like, I mean,
It's never too late, though. I mean, in
mean,
a
well,
way,
you like
I think the
apps
player
from
base
App
needs to be
Store, though.
bigger because
Yeah,
I think
true.
if you're going to charge me 95 cents to play Nexus Wars, then there needs to be a ton of people playing it. I need to be able to start a game instantly. Because I mean, that might work for Nexus Wars and Desert Strike and maybe two or three others, but that's it. All the other games, it's just like, oh, this is $1.50. Like, I've
well,
never
you can
even
make it
heard of
free. You
this.
can make in-app purchases. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like the mobile industry, like inside of StarCraft. I mean, it's you can figure out ways of monetizing. But
Free
I think it
games
would
and
be
they
really
get
cool.
ads in your games, kind of like a deal, right?
Okay,
Sorry,
what
say
was that?
again?
Yeah, say that.
Like you could get free games, like how they do it with like Google Apps or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They have like the ads in the game or whatever.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you could, I mean, like, you play it 5 times for free or something,
Or you can have special powers in the game if you pay 99 cents or something, whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can figure out as long as there's an API to, for charging.
Another big problem. Sorry,
ahead.
but how the UMS scene, like the games refresh, it's not the same. I think that's like another way of easily fixing it. It's like when you host a game, it won't readily show up on the list. It'll be more like the popular games that are being played right now. So I think, I don't know, if they went back just to the old
Yeah,
way
they
of
added like the open lobbies thing.
Yeah,
It's
with
not
the free beer.
default, and people don't seem
Free
to.
beer
It just
lobbies.
doesn't. I don't know. It just seems like there's not enough people using the system to create the
It's
spin to
overly
get the
complicated,
cogs of the
too.
machine going.
because there's
Yeah.
like 5 different tabs on the side, like saying like
Yeah.
melee, custom, what have you.
Yeah, no, and all these things we're talking about, Blizzard can make some changes to their UI, right? And I think they're kind of going towards that direction. So,
Yeah.
so they're doing a lot of good work on their end, and hopefully, we'll see some bigger changes in the social, just the more casual social aspect of StarCraft 2 will kind of build up. From
Yeah,
where
that
it
was
is right
another
now. Yeah.
Good point.
All right, thanks for your call,
Cheers,
buddy.
guys. Yeah.
All right, how about one more call? Sound good? Or is there any other good question on the stream chat, John, that you saw?
I've been looking, mostly people just commenting a lot about what we're talking about.
Turn on intense mode. Let's see, what is this? Okay, that's a suggestion on that. Let's see. These people want to call in or not? Let's see. All these people texted me a question, so I'm not sure they want to call in. But there's some really good games, though, in the arcade, I have to say. Really fun games,
What do you?
Here is a question. Somebody asked this. It should have probably been addressed earlier, but somebody in chat's asking. There's another question too. Do you guys think it's possible to find jobs in the industry if you studied management or something along those lines?
Oh, yeah, of course.
There
I
is,
mean, I
but again,
studied
you
economics.
could be a PhD in esports, and you're not going to get a job if you don't just take the initiative to go out and try to get one. I mean, again, I put resumes into both Blizzard and Riot, and not even gotten a call back. And I have 12 years of esports experience, running events, doing online stuff, and just no callback. A lot of it has to do with who you know. So maybe sometimes it's, just get buddy with someone that's already in the industry. That's a good start.
That's a
That
good way
happens
to
in
do it.
That's
life.
always a good start.
It happens in real life too. So
Yeah.
saying that is not anything different than what we do every day in business. But certainly the biggest thing is if you feel like you have the skills to contribute, find a way to contribute. And Mike said it earlier too. Sometimes you, at one point, you're going to have to find the fine line. You're going to have to decide where it's at that you're going to just continue to offer your services for free, or you need to start to get paid for it. So,
Yeah.
but you got to start somewhere.
All right, Joe Cox going to be the last caller. Joe's helped me a lot with videos in the past.
Hi, how's
What's up,
it going?
Joe? Oh, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, how's it going, man? Happy holidays.
And you guys as well. Happy Xmas to anybody.
So you got a question for us?
Yes, I wanted. One second, I have to mute this.
Okay,
Wow,
no problem. No problem.
forgot that. I wanted to ask, what about the teams? It takes a lot of time. I've been talking to a lot of people that set teams up, such as the manager of Root Chosen, who was the former manager of, MNX. Teams are struggling to make new talent. A lot of this, it seems to be players aren't able to put that much time in because there's not much reward for them. And it takes a lot of time. Before, you could have players like Spanishiwa that could both be a semi-pro, good level player and make some money streaming or do decent enough in tournaments. But right now, even with the semi-pro players, if they went into like a Zeke 50 because there's no longer play-ums, they get crushed by Koreans or anybody else. Huge discouragement for rising talent.
Yep. Yep.
You know what?
There's no bottom leagues.
Right.
I would actually refer you to if you watch the Drunk State of the Game. I think Tyler made some very good remarks about this, where he basically said like, yeah, it's fucking hard, like it's not easy. But I mean, that's coming from a guy who he did this in Brood War. He got into a Kespa team house, all that jazz,
Crazy.
playing Brood War. And you know what there was in Brood War compared to StarCraft 2? Like, there was nothing in Brood War. Like, there was absolutely nothing. And so, I mean, the fact is it's hard. And I mean, it's hard for, like, a hockey player to, get into the NHL. And if you're not in the NHL, you're basically not making very much money either, right? So, I mean, I would just say, like, yeah, infrastructurally things could be better. But it is what it is, and it's hard, but that's kind of the grind. And I mean, if you want to dedicate yourself to playing an RTS game for a living, like, you need that in you anyway. And I think the CSL right now is like one of the best things, because I mean they've got $180,000 prize money, I think, between League and StarCraft 2. So I mean, if you are going to university or college and can get a team together, you can make money there and help subsidize yourself while you try and make it.
Again, that's an example of a more organic and local and regional growth, which I think is where the key is. Things like that, and those things can be done online too. I mean, more playhams, more organizations running lower level. I hate using that word, but lower skilled events where people can just compete and just get involved and have a place where they feel like they're not going to be stepping into a tournament in which there's two guys in it that they know is going to win it all, and you have no chance. I mean, I would have no incentive to join an event if I knew there was just absolutely no way. If I feel like I had just a little chance, I'll join an event. So I think we need more of that for a lot of players out there.
Yeah, so
and I mean,
it's for developmental reasons, and it's more of a tiered approach. Like these players need confidence to
I think WCS is the big kind of opportunity for a lot of players this year, because I mean, like, speaking as a North American, Huck got like 10th in Canada or something. Like, there's 9 players who finished above him and all got that free trip to the North American qualifier, right? So
yeah.
There are opportunities out there, and it's definitely not easy, and it won't be. And I think this kind of comes back to a little bit, we were talking about like League before and the impacts of Riot. It's like they're kind of made it so easy for some people, like, I mean, being a pro gamer, like, it's not really as glorious as, you read some headlines on Reddit, and, you read about Huck making tons of money, living in Korea, doing whatever, Stefano doing very, very well for himself, but it's extraordinary stuff that these guys do, and they did work a lot in some cases to get to where they are.
Yeah,
I wanted to. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's not that it's not supposed to be hard. I mean, it is supposed to be hard to be the top level pro. I mean, there's no question about it. It's just, there's just no
There's no
See,
path. You know, it's not
there's
like
no minor league. There's just
that's,
no there's no
No middle ground.
sandbox. There's no sandbox for these guys to develop and get some confidence and then get to the minor league. You know, there's no Q school or anything like that.
I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Like the Complexity Academy. I think that was a great
Yep.
idea, and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's there, right? Like, if you want to, you can go
Right.
play in that tournament. Then you can probably go live in their house, and they'll like. I mean, I don't think they're going to be paying you much, but you'll be able to have a place to live, good internet. You'll be able to stream, and so I mean, like, you know, that's kind of the challenge. There's no direct.
It's there, but it's
being
not
a
there.
affiliate.
It's not. It's not. There's not a big enough structure for it. I mean, it's kind of one off. There's the complexity thing. There's other things every once in a while. But excuse my voice, by the way. But there's not a sustainable model built for that yet, and I think that needs to change, and we'll get there.
Well, there's two parts to it. I mean, the whole Complexity Academy is a great thing, but that's all from the standpoint of support, like support for these players.
Right.
You still have you need the other part, which is the competitive sandbox, like for just these players to develop and not, like you said, not have to play in like the biggest of tournaments like MLG and WCS. You know, like Playhams were wonderful, and hopefully it sounds like Playhams aren't gone forever. So hopefully they'll come
They're
back.
not.
It sounds like it's not
announced
gone
Team
forever.
Liquid.
Yeah. So they
They
might
had
be coming
announced
back soon, and hopefully there'll be a few more of these kind of organizations that pop up. Like
Yeah, I think Playham is coming back, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember,
yeah,
and I mean this was a good topic because having the lower level players or lower tier, being able to play high players. I want to give like a personal reference to that. I was in Platinum League some time ago. Top Masters, Master Korea now.
awesome.
When I played against a player named Rain Perfect, who went to Czech 6, I idolized his ability of being able to crush me. Like, it just wasn't even fair. And I met him probably 3 more times and play him and a few other Rain members, and that really gave a different perspective because it wasn't against other players that were doing builds that were slower and builds that weren't as quick. It's different from watching people on a tournament and you're like, wow, they're so fast. Those timings are great. But when you're in Platinum, the opponent that you are trying to beat is slow as well. So when you play against a player that literally came out with a build 45 seconds faster, you then kind of reflect on, oh, wow, I didn't know that gap really existed.
Yeah, it's an iterative kind of skill progression, I guess, is kind of what it is. Which you can't really get if you're playing guys way better than you.
No, and I tell my son all the time, and he's a premier level soccer player, and I tell him all the time, if you want to be the best, you have to play the best. So there is something to be said about people about doing that, but at the same time, he still has a natural progression. He still has a sandbox, as you put it, to play in, and where his skill is comparable to the people that he's playing. So he has an opportunity to. I mean, I've taken teams as a coach. I've taken soccer teams to tournaments and absolutely got trashed. And the look on these players' faces, it was almost as if they didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah,
and it's happened. It's not good at all to go through those sorts of things all of the time. Sometimes it's good to go to an event in which you're at slightly better than the rest, and you have an opportunity to win it, and it gives them confidence, and they feel better, and they want to play the game more, and they want to get more involved. So you've got to weigh those two things, and I think you have to do both of them. But there definitely needs to be a sandbox for lower skilled or lower tiered players to be able to have an opportunity to grow from.
Is that cross-promoting aspect one of the biggest keys to that as well, then? To be able to get these players, to get the morale to practice, to get better?
I don't. What do you mean by cross-promoting?
Like,
I don't follow you there.
when he's talking about making that structured league, or the CAL, I believe.
Cal?
Cal.
Cal.
Yeah, similar. Yes. Go ahead.
Being able to get insight from other players has really helped in terms of development, because I've given 400 hours of coaching, and I've seen multiple teams get insight from other players. It's like, oh, well, you can do that. But in order to do that, they had to be introduced to these players. And a lot of players that play on the ladder, it's a very solo experience. There isn't a place to do that. I did it in Playhem, but I mean, that was a rare shot.
I think I think that has a lot to do with if the players are available to do those things. I mean, that's really on the players. That's really on maybe somebody coming up with an idea of, a coaching website or some sort of, hey, interact with the pros website or things like that. But I think that's more on the players, and that's more on the lower level players just reaching out to some of the pros, messaging somebody and saying, hey, can you help me, or I want to learn from you, or just watching VODs and replays and things like that.
All right, Joe.
Okay.
Thanks for the call, buddy.
Good one.
Yep,
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too.
Cheers.
You too.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for the questions today, guys. Good questions. Good questions.
There was one more question.
All right,
It's a
one
quick
more.
one.
All right, quick one.
Somebody had a question. Michael, what are your favorite players for each race?
This guy was spamming it.
yeah.
That's true.
All right.
Well, I had to ask it. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he was loyal. He was asking a lot. This is a hard question. I would say my favorite Terran player would be MVP. My favorite Protoss player would be. Gonna have to. I'll go with Rain on that one. And my favorite Zerg player. Let's go ahead and
If you say
give
life,
that one.
I'm going to puke, dude.
Yeah, it's life.
Oh, no.
Life. No white people in that list.
Okay. They just happen to be three of the best players in the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the players who win the most, and I mean,
Just a bandwagon. You're a bandwagon fan.
I mean, MVP just is the.
No,
I mean,
I love him too.
I'll say here some of my personal favorite players that I really like watching for Terran. Tasia and the STC are two players that I really like watching. Tasia, I cast so many games back when I was regular doing the ESV Korean Weekly, so Tasia's always got a special place in my heart. And then Life, I actually cast him a ton back then, and I'm just going to say those two because I'm a Terran player too, so I gravitate towards Terran players kind of. And Terran is just the hardest race to play, so.
You had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Good thing good thing the Q&A is over, right?
Yeah.
But Mike, man, real pleasure having you on, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. Find a crazy break in your
Keep doing what
schedule.
you're doing. I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely nice talking with you. I think people who tuned in will see you as a lot more than just an observer.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
But any shout-outs or thank yous you want to do?
Yeah, just thanks to the people that tune in. I think this is a good show, definitely worth watching. So keep on watching. For anyone who doesn't know me, of course, we talked about the Good Studio, which is what I'm regularly involved with. So back in January, the Good Show will be starting back up. So make sure you tune in. It starts generally 2 hours before this show on Tuesdays. So
Back to back.
pretty easy to just sit on your ass and watch a lot of esports shows. So make sure you watch that. If you want to keep tabs on what I'm doing, my Twitter's on the screen, so it's right there. And otherwise, she's nothing much else. Just keep watching the big tournaments you like watching, and keep trolling on Reddit if you troll on Reddit, because I always love reading the downvoted comments. So
Do you read the chat at all during tournaments? Can they how can they give you a shout out on during tournaments?
It depends. I mean, it depends on the setup. At DreamHack, I've gotten pretty good at having a second computer there with chat up, and it
Nice.
depends. It's like during the Good Invitational, there's a lot of like funny Photoshop. So I was in chat, between games, helping pick out the good ones and putting those on stream. So
Good stuff.
yeah, I'm not too sure what my next live event will be. To someone asking there in chat if I'll be at IM Poland, but should be doing some more stuff pretty soon in January and February, and then of course. When Heart of the Swarm comes out, I might be spending another month on an airplane. I don't know.
Seriously. That's going to be crazy. John, you got any shout-outs?
Just to those tuning in, it was a great show today. Really nothing today. Just shout out to getting through the holidays.
Seriously. Oh, my goodness.
Jeez.
But,
I'm gonna go eat the rest of the leftovers after this.
Oh,
though.
my God. I've eaten so much.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous. Like Christmas Day, I literally... Okay, it went from 11 to 2 eating 2 to 4, I played some basketball, and then 4 to 7 eating. That's pretty much how it went for me.
Lots of food. Lots of food.
Yeah, lots and lots of food.
It's good though.
But yeah, my shout out, just a big shout out to obviously all the folks that tuned in today. You know, I was happy to get in a show this week because you know, it was, you know, again, just with Mike, and we originally weren't planning on, but since Mike, you know, was available today, we decided to do it, and I think it was a really good idea.
Yeah, it was fun. Too bad Red Eye wasn't here, but such
Yeah.
is life.
Red Eye, oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that before. Yeah, so
We'll
Red
just
Eye
have
guys
to have you
was in with
back.
the family. Yeah, we'll have to have you back with Red Eye, and then
Oh, and let's remind those that are tuning in that Red Eye will be back.
yes, Red Eye will be back. He was just with his family during the holidays, so
Well, he basically said no. He does no work for the next 2 weeks
yeah.
through the holidays. So,
Yeah, so next week we might end up doing another Thursday show, just because Tuesdays fall on Christmas and New Year's this year, so not really great for this show. But yeah, so we'll probably do it Thursday. I'll let you know, and I'll let you know the guests. But we got some great guests lined up for January, and there's one I'm just super excited about, but I don't want to jinx it quite yet, so I'm not going to say anything until he actually is on the show.
I'm not even sure I know who that is, so maybe I'll be excited too.
You know who he is. I think I've mentioned it to you, but you just don't remember. But yeah, so January is going to be a great month for the show, and all those folks that are wondering when you're going to get all those giveaways that I gave away last week, I'm in the process of sending them. It takes a while to send out like 25 packages, so you're going to give me time to find all the boxes and everything. But I sent out my first wave yesterday. So second wave probably this weekend, so tune in. Look out for that. But other than that, that's going to be it for Climbing the Ladder this week, folks. We will see you next time. Peace.
See ya.